Well, I hope everyone has enjoyed the lunch. I know that's my favorite lunch that they serve here at the iHotel here in Champaign. They always do a great job with it. As you continue to wrap up and enjoy your lunch, we do have a speaker for you, and ISA is pleased to welcome Rob and Emily Sharkey to this year's Soybean Summit. With their firsthand experience and candid approach, they'll discuss the human side of transitioning a family farm, from navigating difficult conversations to balancing family dynamics and business decisions. Rob and Emily will share practical advice and real-life stories to help you prepare for a smooth and successful farm transition. Please join me in welcoming Rob and Emily.
Wow, did you write that?
I did not.
Because that was pretty good. Now they're expecting something good, and it ain't going to happen. Thanks for having us here. My name is Rob Sharkey. I'm a fifth-generation farmer from just outside of Bradford, Illinois.
And I would be what you would call a skip-generation farmer. So my grandparents on both my mom and my dad's side farmed. But I think because they farmed through the 80s and went through some really tough times, they didn't encourage the kids to come back to the farm. So my dad became a soil scientist, and my mom, back then, girls weren't even encouraged to come back to the farm. So it never even occurred to her that she could come back. So yeah, I'm a skip generation, and I was happy to get back on the farm when I married Rob.
We had started a podcast in 2016, 17, a long time ago anyway. And we were just interviewing people in agriculture, people like yourselves. And for this audience here, raise your hand. Are you a farmer, production agriculture? Raise your hand if you are. Okay, so probably, the majority of it. Fantastic. So we were interviewing just people like yourselves. We weren't focusing on like the politicians, the presidents of whatever organization. We just wanted to talk with people like you. That led into us moving into rural radio, channel 147 XM. We built a studio at our farm. And I'll never forget, they're building a studio. We had a couple of the nerd guys come in, connecting all this stuff. And they're putting a microphone on her side of the studio. And she's like, no, I don't want a microphone. I'm never going to talk. Now, if you listen to the radio show, you know that she's not just talking every now and again. You're actually the co-host.
I wasn't expecting to be the co-host, but I sure do love it because we talk to people from all over the country about what they do in agriculture, and it's amazing. We hear a lot of first-generation farmers. We hear multi-generation farmers, but the stories we hear are just unbelievable, and we love it.
Mm-hmm. So we're interviewing people on the podcast every week. We're interviewing people every weekday on the radio. And then we also have the television show. Now, this is a little different. We're not interviewing people in agriculture. We're interviewing people in Nashville. Now, this is on Broadway, which is the main drag with all the honky-tonks. So we're doing what they call man-on-the-street interviews. We stop and we show them like a picture of a combine. Or the best is like the grain bins. You show them what a grain bin is, they're like, oh, I've seen those. I think that's where the farmer keeps his milk.
But it's been surprising. It's been a journey for us because when we first started, people come to Nashville from all over the world. We thought that it would be more like kind of a Midwest, people who enjoy country music. But no, people from all over the world. And I used to walk up to people because it's my job to bring people up to the microphones and ask them questions. And I used to say, hey, do you want to be on TV? We've got a show called Shark Farmer TV. And people would just walk away from me. And so I said, okay, I got to get better at this. And so then I started saying, hey, we're farmers from Illinois. We just want to ask you some questions about where your food comes from, find out what you know, show you some equipment, and see what you know. And people 9 times out of 10 will tell me yes now and come on. And the surprising part of that is that people really think highly of farmers and ranchers. And once they get done and we ask them questions, because we don't make fun, which is hard sometimes when they think that you store your milk in a grain bin, We don't make fun, and they want to know more, and we can hardly get away sometimes after. We spend a lot of time talking to them afterwards because they want to know about our farm, and they keep asking questions. So it
Plus
has been a
they're
lot of
drunk.
fun. Well,
They're drunk half the time we're talking to them.
we do have to quit by like 2 in the afternoon because after that, it's just not worth it.
As well as we also have the PBS show. We shoot in Peoria, Illinois, Shot of Ag. Again, we're talking to people in agriculture. So again, stories from people like yourselves. This one, though, is a different audience. Our audience has always been agriculture. This one is outside. It became very apparent our very first show. We had someone on that it was involved in a PTO accident. After the show, the producer came out and she was like, I don't get what you just talked about. I don't understand a thing that just went on. Like, how could you not? And she goes, you tell me, how does somebody get hurt from paid time off? That's our fault, So now we're trying not to talk such farmeries. The point of this rundown is that Emily and I, we have interviewed well over 5,000 people in agriculture from one coast to the other, people like yourselves. There was always a reoccurring theme.
Always. It doesn't matter whether you're from Spokane, Washington, or California, or Wisconsin, no matter where we go, it seems like afterward, the common theme was that people wanted to know how to pass down the farm to the next generation, but they didn't know how to do it, and we found they weren't having the conversations, which, as you'll find out, we didn't have all the conversations even. So talking to them afterward, more and more, we learned that, okay, we got to show the human side of this, the conversations that people should be having. So we're not going to get into like the things that the lawyer talks to you about or your accountant. You still have to have those conversations, but we have definitely had enough conversations to know what the human side of it, what the emotions behind it should be.
Yeah, examples that we've heard firsthand from people that we've interviewed that have either stopped a secession, stopped that transition, ended farms. Some really sad stories over some things that probably didn't really need to be. I'm a fifth-generation farmer. I never had a discussion with my dad about coming back to the farm. It sounds weird to say. It sounds weird coming out of my mouth when I say it, but I never did. I never actually had that talk. It was always implied. We'd kind of talk about details, but we never sat down and had what Emily and I like to refer to as the discussion. Oh, you forgot a slide.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Acres TV is free, by the way. So if you want to see a bunch of really fantastic content on
Plus our
farming
PBS
and
show.
ranching and the PBS show, if you don't get WTVP, you can go to acres.com and watch it there. So
Yeah, I did it perfectly. I said the discussion, I was supposed to go like this, but
yeah.
guess you get what you pay for, huh? A discussion about passing the farm on to whoever's going to get it. We're going to keep things very generic, right? I know there's all sorts of different ways farms go. We're going to talk about parents and their kids. I know you got aunts and uncles and all this stuff, but we're going to keep things generic just for the examples that we use. Now, this discussion, Emily and I feel, should be a formal discussion. You guys should do it over the kitchen table or wherever, and everybody involved needs to be there. And that's the only thing that should be discussed during that certain discussion.
In other words, don't do it when you're sorting cattle or sorting hogs.
That would be the last time you would want to do it.
That's right.
So if everybody sits down, everybody's all on the same page about, okay, we're going to talk about passing the farm down to the next generation. All right. We feel this discussion should start very plainly.
The kids, I want to work on the farm. It's amazing how many times this is not said. The kids don't tell their parents that they want to work on the farm.
All right. Is this okay? Do we all agree on this? This is something we could start with? It's simple. I want to work on the farm, but yet we don't ever say this because, we're dudes, we're farmers, we don't want to actually act like we want something. But this is so simple. And the parents?
The parents, we want you to work on the farm.
Again, anybody see any problem with this? That's good, because this is how it should start. Now everybody knows. The kids want to come back. The parents want them to come back. We can build on that. What happens, though, when we have this discussion? Kid, I want to come back to the farm. What's the next word that follows out of their mouths? But. We want you to work on the farm. But. There's no buts. This is a butless conversation. I know it's corny, but we feel like it should be hopes and concerns. All right? Now bear with us. Let's start this discussion.
So for the kids, my hope is to come back. My concern is that I would be too much of a financial burden for the farm.
Okay? Now these are all examples that we've heard from people that we've interviewed that started a fight and in certain cases was the end of a farm. Just a statement like this.
We were talking to a family in Missouri one time, and the kid had said, you know, I want to come back, but I don't know if there's a place. I don't know if you can afford to have me back. And the parents were so upset. They were so offended. They're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Of course we can have you back. We'll figure it out. But the kid was being really selfless in asking that question.
Yeah, again, too, the parents took offense because, you know, this is what they built towards. And I think probably a lot of you in this room, you're building this farm not just for yourselves, but you're building it for that next generation that's coming on. And when the next generation's sitting there at that table going, could you really take me on? There are certain parents in certain situations and certain ways that the kid is going to say this that can really create some problems. So this is a simple one that should not start a fight. This is just simply the kid going, you know, I don't want to be a burden. Okay? It's usually generally when you nod your head. Okay? Okay with this? Anybody? I don't care if you're not okay with it. We're going to move on.
Parents, we hope you come back, but we are concerned that you will be giving up your dreams because you feel an obligation to the farm. This
is in reverse now. And we've seen this too. Actually, we've seen more examples of this than the other way. You know, the kid, it is his dream, and the parents know it. There's been examples of this that we've talked about.
Yeah, you know, I think that, you know, the parents keep asking, you know, are you sure that you want to come back? And really they're just making sure that that is their dream. They want to hear it. But for the kid, they're like, this is all I've ever worked for. What are you talking about? This is my dream. Of course I want to come back. So it's really hard for kids to admit it and for parents to listen. Parents, and, you know, sometimes I think too, you know, in some generations, you know, they sort of force their kids to come back. Mm-hmm. And so in double checking with their child saying, do you really want to come back? It's really just because they don't want to make them feel obligated.
Yeah, this was an example out of a farm family in Arkansas. Luckily, it went to the next level, and it got pushed enough to where the parents actually said why they kept this concern. It's because they were pushed into farming. The parents didn't necessarily want to farm. And now here they are having this discussion with the kids. And the kid's taking offense.
Because it's his dream.
Again, these are things that you would not think would cause an issue. But here we've heard these stories again and again. This is no reason to lose a farm.
Kids, my hope is to come back and work towards someday taking over the farm. My concern is that I will be in my 50s before I will have a say in any decisions.
Okay. Parents, the parents out there, I'm looking at all of you. Is this a valid concern? I said parents, is this a valid concern? If anybody's shaking their head, y'all need to look around your neighborhood, because this is what happens. We interviewed
a family where the guy had just lost his father, and he was 72 years old when he lost his father. And for the first time that season, he had to write his first farm check. He was 72 years old writing his first check. He had never ordered seed on his own. He had never ordered all the chemicals, lined up all the trucks. He had never done it all on his own. 72.
That is definitely no way to pass your farm down to the next generation. So when your kid says this is an extremely valid concern that they are worried about, and they're worried about it because they see what's going on in agriculture. All right, relax, parents. We're going back and forth, so don't get too upset one way or the other.
Parents, we hope this evolves into a partnership. Our concern is that you don't fully realize how much hard work and heartache we've had to endure to keep this farm.
Okay, kids, you disagree with this one? Because kids are out there going, hey, what are you talking about? I grew up on this farm. I helped, I know the struggles. I was there. Every time mom and dad had problems, I was there watching. I'm going to tell you, you don't know. You don't know until you go through it. I'll give you an example. The year my dad passed away, 2015, it was the first year I was farming by myself. I didn't have, that person to ask. He'd been retired for a few years, but still, I could ask him questions. Now I couldn't. We were finishing up with corn harvest. Corn was dry. It was like 17%. And my wet bin is about 7,000 bushel. It's a hopper bottom, has no aeration. It's a wet bin. 17% corn. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to put that in there. And then in January, we're going to send it down the river. I'll save some money on storage. I'll save some money on drying. Genius. Well, January turned into July. And as I was walking by that bin one day, I could smell it. So I run to the top, I open it up, it looks like grass. I run down to the bottom, it's a hopper bottom, I pull that slide, nothing. I'm having a heart attack. But I could feel chest pains at this point. Right then, my daughter comes up. She comes right up here, and she goes, hey, Dad, what's up? So what did I do? Did I tell, oh, my gosh, I this, that, and so much money? No. I just, a little bit of problem with the bin here, but we're working on it. So I know the kids, because I was a farm kid. I know, we think we know the heartaches that the parents are going through, but we don't. You don't until you're going through it.
Kids, I hope to bring fresh ideas to the farm, but I'm concerned I'll be met with, that's the way we've always done it.
Okay, back to you, parents. You like the last one. How about this one? Is this valid? Have you ever said this? We have an example. She was what, from California?
She was from California. This is so neat when we talk to people every day on the XM show. We often get first-generation farmers, and they just really look at things differently. They look at their farm as even more of a business, I think, sometimes than we do, just sort of a fresh idea because they don't know how it's always been done. And she was a poultry farmer, and they had a farm. She raised about 2,000 chickens outside, and it was neighborhoods all around her. She had thousands of people living in these neighborhoods, and everybody was so interested in what she was doing. So she was having people out to the farm all the time. And, for us, when we were first getting into farming, we didn't have people to the farm. You were always nervous about having people on the farm. Well, so she has people coming out. They want the story behind their food. They want to hear how she raises them. She started an egg vending machine. Yeah. So she would put eggs in this vending machine 24 hours a day. People from the surrounding neighborhoods could come and get eggs out of her vending machine. And it's just a neat way of doing things that, generations before might not have thought of doing.
You imagine if your kid came to you with that idea? You get your hippie ideas out of here. This girl, she's buying ground now. She's making bank. And she's doing it by a way that probably none of us would have ever thought of. So yes, maybe it's not always the way it was done, but in this case, she's doing well with it.
Parents, Our hope is that you will come with a new idea. Our concern is that you take our hesitancy personally. We will take things slower because we have experience in failure.
Kids, I know it gets frustrating when you keep bringing up ideas to the old people, and they're like, oh, well, let's start slow or whatever. Because you're young, you want to go straight up. I think you'll find a lot of times your parents went straight up, and it didn't work out so well. So they're hesitant. I went broke raising hogs. I mean, it was a debt. It took 7 years for Emily and I to pay off. And every once in a while, my son brings up getting back in livestock. So this is very valid for the parents. All right, we'll end with this. When you have this discussion, when you're sitting down at the table, I do have some advice for both the kids and the parents. For the kids, when you're sitting down there, you're talking about how you're going to come back and take over the farm. I think it's important that you do remember what you are entitled to. You grew up on that farm. You helped with it. You can argue that the farm is better because you were raised on there. That's a valid argument. So when you sit down there across from whoever, remember what you're entitled to. And what you're entitled to is jack squat. Nothing. There is no law that says I have to give this farm to my kids. There's no law that says that you've got a right to come back to the farm. None of that. Now, the fact that they're willing to sit at that table with you is a great sign. And I think if you remember what you're entitled to, this discussion is going to go a lot better. Parents, did you like that one? Did you? Jack squat, they don't get nothing, remember? Did you like that, everybody? It's fun, isn't it? I'm glad, because you aren't going to like this one. Parents, you can never weaponize your farm against your kids. Never. Under no circumstance, you can never do it. You can never say, you know what, I'm done with you. I'm going to take this farm, I'm going to rent it to the neighbor down the road. You can't do that. We were in Arizona, and there was a father and a son who, standing right there, decided to have an argument in front of us for whatever reason. And they're arguing about this. And the dad, he looks at me and he says, hey, I told him the other day I was just going to sell the farm. And do you know what he said? He said nothing. He didn't even care. I said, well, were you fighting? Were you arguing? He's like, yes. Well, of course he's not going to say. What do you expect? You expect him to drop down to his knees and say, oh, I'm sorry, Dad, the error of my ways, please forgive me. No, you're fighting.
And the son was standing there, and Rob looked at the son, and he's like, but when you were laying in bed that night, could you sleep? And he said, not a wink. He goes, I was so afraid my dad was going to sell the farm over that argument that we were having that I didn't sleep for days.
You can't weaponize your farm against your kids. And I get it. I farmed with my dad, and now I'm farming with my oldest son. I argued with my dad, and my dad was a fantastic dad. I loved him to death. He was fantastic, but we farmed, so we got in arguments. I'm going to tell you right now, I regret so much all those arguments I had with my dad. I look back, and they were stupid. I look back, I started them. I truly, I wish so much I could get those moments back, that I was arguing over stupid stuff when I could have been spending time with the man that raised me. Now I have, my oldest son is back, and we farm. So in the spring, when the planter breaks down, or last spring he turned too short, I've done it so many times, you know, when he caught the tongue with the tire, and you get mad. And even now I look back at how stupid that is to just get mad over stuff that it happens. And you learn not to do that stuff by actually doing it. You're going to farm with family, most likely you're going to get in some arguments. The key is to just not let them get to the next level. In our case, generally Emily comes in and kind of, how the mom does, smooths.
I'm always the mediator.
I know. I talk to her, and then William talks to her and kind of smooth everything over. You're going to truly regret all these arguments that you have. And I know I'm a hypocrite for saying it, but just try. When you know you're going there, just try to take a step back. My dad was an amazing person, but I'll give you an example of what my dad was like. When growing up, we had 2 farms, and actually when I came back from college and worked with him, we had 2 farms, hog farms, the home farm, and then one was about 10 miles away. I took care of the home one, he took care of the other one. It was a Sunday, and he had lost 2 hogs, and these were full-grown hogs. And he was late for church, so he left them. So the next day, Monday, he says, hey, jump in with me. I need some help dragging these hogs out. Well, the day before, I was watching football with the boys, drinking a little, so I was not feeling well. And on that drive, sitting there thinking about pulling out 2 full-grown hogs in July was a little more than I could handle. I didn't want to say anything, but I was like, Dad, I really, really don't feel good. Do you think maybe you could drag one of them out? In my mind, thinking he'll go, oh, I'll drag them both out. Dad goes, oh, I didn't know you weren't feeling good. He says, I tell you what, there's some Triactin in the glove box. Take those. Maybe by the time we get there, you'll feel better. I'm like, okay. And I open the glove box. I'm like, what's Triactin? Dad goes, Triactin like a man. So that's the kind of guy he was, right? Great dad. The reason that Emily and I are here today is because we started a deer outfitter, which pulled us out of the debt from the hogs when we first started going. My self-confidence was very low at that time, and I wanted to do this outfitter, but I was unsure. I didn't want to fail again. That was my biggest fear. So I'm going through the hogs. Never forget, I was going through nursery 1. My dad walks in, and he says, hey, tell me about this outfitter idea that you want to do. When he did it, my heart, it just sank, because I didn't want to tell him. Mr. Triactin, right? I didn't want him to laugh. I didn't want him to tell me it was a dumb idea, because I knew I just wouldn't do it. So I told him all the details. He's looking down the whole time. When I was done, he looked up at me and he goes, I don't get it. I don't get what you're trying to do. And as my heart's beating faster, he goes, but I'll help you. I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather. Because he chose not to laugh at me at that moment, not to say it was a dumb idea, which I guarantee he thought it was. That's why we went ahead and did. My self-esteem was that low. I wouldn't have done it. We wouldn't be farming today. We wouldn't be up here today if my dad would have laughed at me at that moment. So now I'm farming with my oldest son. Her oldest son, too.
He's got a lot of ideas.
He's got a lot of dumb ideas. But when he says them, I do. I remember my dad. And I don't laugh, and I don't say, oh, that's the dumbest thing I've ever. No. I said, okay, I'll try to help you. If he fails at these ideas, it's going to be a better lesson than we can ever teach him. But man, if he succeeds, as parents, as farmers, that's really what it's all about. Now, we're not lawyers, we're not accountants. For your succession, that's who you need to talk to. But what we want to do is at least have you all get this discussion started. We've talked to too many people in agriculture that have lost their farm over honestly really silly things. So that's a reason that we put this presentation together. And we really want to thank you all for having us. Really, really appreciate it. We will take any questions if you got any. Involve the non-farm kids in the discussion? That's a great question. Any others? The thing that people really don't like to talk about is that to pass on a farm, a lot of times, it's not fair. It's not going to be fair to one kid or the other. We're honest with I've got 5 older sisters. And, I said that Dad really didn't talk to me about the farm. He talked to my sisters all the time about it, and he prepared them. He's like, it's not going to be fair. It's not going to be fair in the future. In our case, there was life insurance, there was cash, and my sisters would get all that, and we get the ground. A very, very good deal for my sister, for my wife and I.
But we also get the debt that comes with it too. So we're still, it's not.
You always like to bring that up,
don't you? It's not all perfect. It's not all perfect. We're still working through that. And
yes.
We're just to that point where we're ready to sign. Like, we have been working on our succession plan for a couple years now. Mm-hmm. And now there's a new administration, and who knows what changes. You have to update it all the time. But we have been through it, and those conversations are hard, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's true. It's not always fair. Cutting it, 2 ways, 3 ways, 10 ways, it's about impossible. You have to bring everybody into the conversation, because like with your sisters, all 5 of them don't really have anything to do with the farm. They love the farm. They want to see us succeed, but they don't farm.
Yeah. The generic answer, of course, is, every farm is different. You're going to have to do what's right for yourself. But I think one thing that my parents did well was prepare the non-farm kids for what was coming. So it was never a surprise. Yep.
With 2 kids, can you hear this?
Yep.
Yes.
With 2 kids, and one will farm someday in ag business now, the other one not, in a different state. I'm thinking about not having to give the same number of dollar value to both kids. Is that a bad thing to do? Because they're both good kids. They both would accept it without any reservation.
Again, every farm is different. If it's the family's goal to preserve the farm and have it go on, sometimes that's the truth of it. It's not fair, and I know of a lot of places where you hear this type of talk, they won't say it, but sometimes to keep that farm together, one kid's going to have to get a lot more than the others.
And surprisingly, like, when you sit down and talk about it, the worst is when you don't. When the decision's just made and you don't talk it through and they don't get any context behind it. I think that's what's so important. I think that's what we've found lately. Whatever you're trying to pass down is if it's just done, especially if it's done fast and a decision quickly, and you don't sit down and have a conversation and they don't know why you made the decisions, I think that can really help them not be mad at each other, mad at you. Like, when you have that conversation and you can all try to come to an agreement, it really helps. It's what your mind races when you just assume why the decision was made, I think, can be so hard.
Yeah. We do have to respect your time and that, so we are going to go ahead and step off here. But again, thank you so very much for having us. We're going to be around, so we truly appreciate the opportunity talking to y'all. Thank you.